Hi, everybody. Elida Zweidler-McKay with Engaging Leadership, where we're all about helping you engage the people around you so that you can take your career to the next level. Also helping you find career clarity and finding your inner confidence. So one of the things that I've been reading a lot about is the transition as workplaces are now heading to hybrid models or back to work. And a lot of people during the pandemic had the experience of working from home, and they enjoyed some of the benefits of that, like being able to more flexibly move between work and family responsibilities, being able to be in their home environment, which is a little bit more restful for some people, being able to carve out time to really focus on their work without distractions or interruptions. I know that wasn't true for everybody who worked at home. Some people, especially those with small children, had lots of interruptions and things to juggle and might be happy to go back to work. But for the folks who found it actually really comforting to work at home or comfortable to work at home, and who are looking for that kind of flexibility and being able to juggle between work and home, this move to now go back to the office is creating some dilemmas. There are some real concerns about, if I go back to work full time and I'm back in the office, will I be available to my family the way I want to be? People liked being home when their kids got home. They liked being able to work and then slip off to a kid's game or sporting event and then come back home and work some more. And they're feeling the loss of that as they think about moving back to the office. But on the other hand, considering the possibility of working from home in a continual way or even doing a hybrid model, I'm hearing a lot of concerns about the cost that might wreak on your career. Will you seem less dedicated? Will you miss out on the chatter in the hallway and the informal networking and conversations? Will that hold you back in terms of really being able to be in line for opportunities? And so today I wanted to talk with you about some strategies that you can use in those situations if you wanted to continue to work flexibly and work from home. And these are some strategies that I actually learned myself early on in my career. So when I first was a parent, my son was very young, I worked as a subcontractor doing team building and team effectiveness coaching and consulting. And I worked part-time and mostly from home. And so these are some of the lessons that I learned from that. I was able to have a very successful career. I was invited onto many projects and follow-on projects. People liked the work that I did. And so I am here to tell you it is absolutely possible to have a successful, flexible career that works with your life and your family. It just takes some extra effort and some extra attention. So these are the 4 areas that you need to really be willing to put some time and effort in order to have a really successful, flexible career. One is you need to be willing to really stand for what's important to you. So you need to be willing to be explicit about your plans and about your boundaries. And I know that's not always easy. It can feel really scary to put ourselves on the line and say, here's my plan. I'm going to work part-time, or I'm going to come to the office 3 days a week, or whatever that's going to look like. But if you aren't explicit about it, you run the risk of kind of having people feel like you're sneaking around or like you're never around. So if you can come up with a plan for yourself, like, I will always be in the office on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I'll probably be here some other days as well, but you can count on me to be here Tuesdays and Thursdays. Making an explicit commitment like that, whatever your commitment is, will go a long way towards showing that you've got the best interest of the company in mind, and here's how you're going to meet the company's needs. And if you can phrase that in a positive way, like not, I won't be in the office Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but more, I will be in the office Tuesday, Thursday. That sort of gives people a sense of what they can expect from you. And also it sort of spins it in a way that they'll hear it with that positive intention. And obviously, that's all subject to negotiation with your employer. But I would say that as long as you have a plan for how your schedule that you want will meet the needs of the company and how you're going to juggle the meetings and the deadlines, given that, I think that goes a long way toward earning the credibility that you need to be able to have that kind of arrangement. The other thing to do is to make sure that you have really clear performance expectations. Now, this is important for any situation in your workplace. And I'm always shocked at how often people have kind of fuzzy expectations about what they're supposed to be accomplishing in their role, or what their metrics are that they need to be moving forward. It varies from role to role, but there are a lot of professionals who sort of operate in this really fuzzy space without real clear deadlines or milestones or metrics. And that is risky in your career, whether you're in the office all the time or you're working from home, but especially if you're working from home, because people need to understand that you're making progress. They need to see that you're moving things forward. And if you're in the office, it's easier for people to get a feel for that. But if you're working from home, you need to institute some kind of regular reporting process where you can describe the progress that you made, describe what you're working on, link that up to bigger goals that you're trying to accomplish for the company and why those matter, so that your boss and anyone else that you need to communicate that with can really see what you have going, how you're moving things forward, what you're accomplishing week after week after week, so that they're not worried about whether you're just at home, doing personal stuff, but they can really see that you are moving things forward. And doing that work up front to make sure the expectations are clear and reasonable is also really important, because if you are accepting responsibilities with unreasonable deadlines, that's always going to come back and have you look like you're not doing what you need to do. So really putting the thought into, for any given assignment, what are the resources that I need? What's the time it's going to take? How can I make sure I'm delivering on a quality project or product on time and on budget? Doing that work up front is really important, and then reporting on it as you go so that people can see that you're making real progress. Now, the other part is, the other two suggestions I have for you are a little bit more on the soft side. And that has to do with the kind of informal communications that happen when people are together in groups. So when people are in an office together, there are all kinds of informal communications that happen. There's the chat before the meeting. There's the chat as people walk down the hall after the meeting. There's, hey, do you want to go get coffee? There's stopping by somebody's desk. And as we all learned from this period in the pandemic, when people are working from home, it's much easier to become isolated and to get sort of fall out of the deal flow, if you will, of those informal conversations. So it's really important throughout your working career, whether you're working in person or from home, to maintain really strong social relationships with the people that you're working with. Now, I don't mean social relationships like you have to go out to dinner with your families, but just that you are connecting with other people that you work with as human beings, and that you're looking out for them, and that you are giving them opportunities to look out for you. And part of that comes from intentionally making the time to connect with people. Now, when you're in an office, like I said, it's easy. You stop by their desk, you have a chat. When you're not in the office, you have to be a little more intentional about it. But there are all kinds of things you can do to create those informal connections. You can, ask somebody if they're willing to have like a virtual coffee session with you, and sit down and kind of chat about what are they working on and what's important to them, and hear what you're working on and what's important to you. You can pick up the phone and call somebody after a meeting and say, hey, just want to debrief that. How did it go? It doesn't have to be that you're there in person to do these things. It's easier in some ways, but that doesn't mean that if you're working from home, you don't get to do that. So remember, the telephone is your friend. If you've got something like Slack or whatever, that can also be a good way to debrief, like, hey, what did you think? How did that go? Or, hey, can we chat for a second? I'd love to hear your thoughts about what happened in that meeting. And then you can sort of continue that informal sort of unstructured way of communicating. And then as you go, sort of making sure that you have a really clear list of the people whose work influences your work, whether they're peers, obviously your direct reports and your boss, but also those peers and those other loose connections in the organization who will influence whether the things that you're working on are going to be successful. So knowing who are those stakeholders, who are those players whose work impacts your work, and who are impacted by what you're doing, and how finding ways to stay connected to them, again, through informal coffee chats or virtual lunches or just phone calls, can be a great way to make sure that you're staying on people's radar and you're really maintaining the kinds of connections that are going to get you ahead. And then the last bit of advice I have for you about that is to let people know when they're on your mind. So anytime you can share information about a project you're working on, or share information about something that's happening that you're allowed to talk about, or you see something in an industry newsletter that might affect their area, that's another way to maintain those great informal loose ties. Just, hey, I was thinking about you, thought you might find this interesting. And the more you can do that, if you set aside a little time each day to make those kinds of connections, that's another way to stay top of mind for people, even if they're not seeing you when they walk down the hall. So that's my advice for ways that you can stay on people's radar, ways that you can manage your career progression and continue to move forward, even if you choose to work from a hybrid model or work from home. It's all about clarifying the goals, clarifying the expectations, showing that you're making progress in those directions, and maintaining the relationships. I wish you all the best with that. If I can support you in any way as you think about how to do that, or as you think about how to keep your career moving forward, feel free to be in touch with me. You can book a call with me at zmcoach.com/apply. You can also go to my website, zmcoach.net, and watch a brief webinar that I've put together on the 5 key skills that clients need to have in order to move ahead in this complicated environment. So I look forward to chatting with you soon. Take care. Bye.